Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
And welcome back to High School Basketball Weekly. Tim Moore along with John Franzoni. And John, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here of the state tournament action. We've got a lot to talk about, but now it really gets serious.
Yeah, we've seen some good basketball the last couple weeks with the first few rounds of the tournaments. Not the most competitive games. The game up at Drury was really a quality game with Salem and the Drury boys last Friday. But now we're getting down to Elite Eight games. We have, we're taping on Wednesday, so the Drury boys have their round of 16 game tonight, and
right.
It'll be exciting to see how they do. And hopefully we have 4 teams going on to the Elite Eight with the boys and girls teams from both Drury and Hoosick.
Absolutely. So let's get right to it, and a lot of great action on the girls' side. Just 2 teams in North Berkshire left playing in the state tournament, and one of those teams is the Drury Blue Devils, and the Lady Blue Devils have had a very successful tournament so far. John, they opened tournament action as the 15th seed coming in, and they knocked off the 19th seed Neighborhood House Charter. That was undefeated at the time, and they handled them handily, and that was kind of a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, Neighborhood House came in undefeated. A team that's only been in existence for 7 years in their program. They've gone from being winless their first year to undefeated in year 7. They had a couple of seniors leading the way and a really talented sophomore point guard. But Drury just came out, and after a little bit of a sloppy start offensively in the first half, just played great defense throughout the game, overcame some foul trouble to their talented point guard, Jacinta Felix, and she came off the bench and played very well in the third quarter when they put the game away. And we talked about it when you and I did the Hoosick boys game last night, and when you defend the way these teams defend, you're going to be in every basketball game. You can see it in that game against Neighborhood House, who, by the way, had the best nickname, the Legends.
Yeah, the Legends.
I thought that was the best nickname we've seen so far playing these different teams. But, so that was a quality win, and they rode that momentum into beating Lennox last night. We talked about it, too, when they played Neighborhood House. I don't understand sometimes teams like Lennox. Why wasn't Lennox there when they played against Neighborhood House? To me, that's a great chance to have your team go up, bond, watch their team play, and get ready for your next game. But they weren't there, and Drury went down and took care of business in Lennox, and more great defense led to a second win for the Lady Blue Devils.
Absolutely, and let's talk about that huge win for the Blue Devils, as they are the 14th seed in Division 5, and they traveled down to Lennox and knocked off the Millionaires, the number 3 seed, in a game that was tight, and a great comeback for Drury, because they were down at halftime by 15 points, but they rallied well to win a low-scoring, tightly contested game, 32-30, and coming into this game, the big plays for Drury, and the big play probably of the game was a young freshman for Coach Ian Downey's squad, Ashlyn Hayden, and here she is. She had 9 points, and not a lot of points, but that's a lot of points in a game when you only score 32
right.
points, John. And this freshman, Ashlyn Hayden, she made the go-ahead basket with just seconds on the clock, and Drury came all the way back from that 15-point deficit and knocked off the number 3 seed Lennox. So Drury now will go on to the Elite Eight, and they'll play in the Elite Eight matchup against Palmer. But before we talk about Palmer, John, what are your thoughts on this young Blue Devil squad?
Yeah, we've seen them play a few times this year, from early in the season till just most recent, or their tournament game at home against Neighborhood House on Friday. And they've really developed. They've had some strong veteran leadership from players like Jacinta Felix and Brooke Bishop, but they've gotten some tremendous efforts from their young players, most notably Ashlyn and Delaney Hayden, and also sophomore Nora Wood, who scored very well for them this year as well. So the development that Coach Downey's received from those young players has been a key to this late season surge for the Blue Devils, and now they're going to go down and play a Palmer team that, again, is seated higher than them, had a couple big wins, they mentioned the Terrell girl who's a real quality player. I was saying, to me, it brings back a little bit of memories. 20 years ago, we went down to Palmer. We were lower seeded. We had they had Brittany Bozer, who was going to Division I Maine on a full ride, and we had this small group of scrappy kids playing good defense, and Michelle Boudreau lit them up for 29 points, and we won, got to the cage. So hopefully the Lady Devils can go down there and do the same thing on Friday night. It was a Friday night game in March, and there's a lot of tradition between the matchups between the Drury and Palmer girls, and hopefully the Lady Blue Devils can keep that momentum going on Friday night.
Yeah, it'll be a tough matchup for them, but all the games now are starting to be tough as you're getting quality opponents, and you can't say enough about Drury. And it also brings to mind, John, something we talked about in some of our broadcasts and things we've talked about over the years is the quality of the physical play and the quality of the defensive play of Berkshire County basketball, and especially North County, Berkshire County basketball.
Absolutely. You can see it really with these Drury and Hoosick Valley teams, both boys and girls. They go out and they attack you on defense. They play great half-court defense, and when necessary, they extend the floor and play full court as well. When you defend like that, when you play every single possession, we talked about last night with the Hoosick boys holding Ware to 30 points in their win. When you defend every possession like that, it wears the other team down. We used to talk about with my teams, especially at Drury, that we want the team to look up in the last 5 minutes and go, man, they're still coming at us with that defense. And that wears on a team, not just physically, but also mentally, because they know that you're not going to let them have anything easy the entire basketball game. And that's, I think, a trademark, especially of Coach Robinson and Coach Reset with their boys' teams, and Coach Downey's establishing that with his girls, and Coach Frederick's done a great job, obviously, with his Hoosick girls team and continuing their tradition over the last 10 years or so. So, I mean, that's the key going down the stretch for these four teams, is they defend every single possession, every pass, every shot, every rebound. They don't back down one single possession, and that gives you a mental and a physical advantage in these tough tournament games where you're grinding those games out, especially in the second half.
No question about it, John, and it's evident for Drury. That's the way they played that game last night down at Lenox, to come away on the road with a 32-30 victory, low-scoring event. Is really impressive. And so Drury now, they march on and they're going to play in the Elite Eight. And of course, as you just said, they've got that tough matchup against Palmer, but they're familiar with Palmer. They know what they're facing, and I wouldn't count the Blue Devils out, that's for sure. Yep. In the girls' side, the number 1 seed, Hoosick Valley, they continue to roll along, John, and we haven't done any of their games so far in this tournament. We will be catching them in the Elite Eight as we go forward, actually after this broadcast is aired. But they started off very impressively in the first preliminary round game of 32, and they took care of Norfolk County Aggie 63-13, and really wasn't much of a game. They had that game well in hand by halftime, as they were up by almost 40 points. So that game allowed them to move on to the game against Mahar, another Western Mass team, and boy, they didn't take the pedal off the metal in that one either, as they beat Mahar 63-32, and Mahar came into the game as the 16th seed, and Hoosick Valley showed no mercy in that one. And again, a balanced scoring attack for the Hurricanes in that one. But impressively, senior Taylor Garabedian, only playing about a half of the game, was able to score in double figures and rebound in double figures. And this is what makes these teams so difficult, both the boys and girls on Hoosick Valley. They've got such balance offensively. They play tough defense, no question about that. But when you got Taylor Garabedian down low on the box, and then Ashton LaSure and Emma Meswar, as well as some of the other young ladies there who aren't afraid to throw them up, it makes it tough to defense.
Definitely. I mean, both Hoosick teams, boys and girls, have just great depth and balance on their offense. They have, with the girls, obviously they have Garabedian and LaSure, who are the veterans, averaging double digits, and that was expected coming into the season. But then you have the development of Emma Meswar, especially the last half of the season, where she's been dropping 17, and more points in a game, and really becoming another instant offense player for them. And then on top of that, you have Abby Shalaba, you have Hannah Shea, you have Haley McNeese, and the others coming off the bench, and they have veterans and they have some younger players contributing too. And again, the thing that goes back to the Huzik team is that they defend. I mean, Coach Frederick, I know I just had a brief conversation with him after the Western Mass semifinal win against Pioneer Valley Christian. He made a comment about just wanting his kids to play 32 minutes because they're having those little lapses here and there. Well, he's got them playing their best basketball at the right time of the year because they're, as you said, they're just drilling teams, and their starters are getting some valuable rest because when you played, I think I have them at 20-3 now, you played 23 games.
Right.
The end of the season becomes a little bit of a grind sometimes for your kids that are playing a lot of minutes, but because of the way they're winning, they're getting to rest and keep their best players fresh. And one thing we talked about, we were just talking about a little bit more before the show, is when they play Drury late in the season, you can just see how strong the Huzik kids are. They're a veteran team. They have a lot of seniors. They have a good group of juniors, and they're a physically mature and strong team. And that helps you when you're playing against these teams from across the state that want to play more physical. But as we know, that's the game that the Berkshire County teams, especially North Berkshire, they want that physical game. They want that grinded out, and they're going to thrive in those situations. So it'll be interesting to see, for St. John Paul II coming over that long ride from Hyannis, how they come out and play against the Huzik girls in this next round. Right,
and like you said, we've noticed that this Huzik Valley team, they're a veteran squad, and I think it matters. The physicality of it matters because I noticed it in a lot of 50-50 balls, tie-up balls. They're able to get that ball and secure possession of it. So it has definitely helped them throughout the course of the year. So they're once again back at the Elite Eight, and we're going to see they're going to have, I think, their hands full with St. John Paul II. I did a little bit of studying in St. John Paul. They do play a little bit more of a difficult schedule down in their league. They have teams that are in Division 4, so they play like the teams here. They're playing in the regular season some bigger schools. So I think this is going to be a great matchup, and it'll be at Huzik Valley. So we'll see how the Lady Hurricanes do there. On the boys' side, boy, we've had some great action. Of course, there's Taylor Garabedian here, the senior. We got her up here, 13 points and 10 rebounds in that last win against Mahar. But there was 3 girls. She was one of 3 girls in double figures scoring-wise. And so that's what makes them tough. They're balanced. On the boys' side, you guys, you and Rick had an opportunity to cover the Drury boys, both Drury and Huzik still alive. Drury, the number 6 seed in the bracket. And they had their hands full with number 27 Smith Academy, Salem Academy, who came in here, and they jumped on Huzik Drury early in that one, John.
Yeah, Salem Academy played a tremendous first half. They were up 35-24 at halftime. They had all the momentum going in their favor. Sometimes as a coach, you hate to see halftime coming. I think that was, if you asked the Salem coach at that, especially with what happened in the second half, he probably wanted to just keep playing. So, Drury had some real struggles early in the game because Salem packed in like a 3-2 zone they were doing. They weren't guarding the outside shooters very aggressively. They were taking Sam Mormon right out of the game. He had very few touches in the first half. And, Miles Beauchamp hit a couple of early threes, but Drury just didn't shoot the ball very well. They weren't in a good rhythm in the first half, but obviously Coach Reset got them motivated in the second half, and they came out firing and really got back in the game in the third quarter with their defense. They held Salem scoreless, I think, for the first 4 minutes and, did a great job defensively after allowing 35 points in the first half, only 15 in the second half, and that was the key to their victory. One player that I think needs to get mentioned for their success recently is Connor Hinkle. He's really come on the second part of the season, playing both ends of the court. He's scoring a little more. He's playing great defense. Coach Reset talked about how they switched him on to, I think it was Santiago, the top scorer for Salem, and he really did a great job on him in the second half, as well as the whole team just making, again, it's one of those situations where you could see Salem getting frustrated in the second half because kind of the free-flowing game that was going on in the first half, Drury grounded into a half-court game, and that's where they're at their best. And they
Right.
didn't let them have any easy looks at the basket. The three-pointers that were falling easily when things were going their way weren't falling as the Drury defense started to kick in. They were making a run at them. And, again, when you defend the way these teams that are left do, you give yourself a chance to win every night. And, Jorge Bond, too, we talked about him a little
Right.
bit. He hit 5 threes.
Right.
And has just been playing tremendous basketball for Drury.
Yep. Yeah, youth will be served. That Jorge Bond, he hit 5 threes in that game against Salem Academy. He's a dead-eye shooter. He'll knock them down if he has any room and he's able to set himself. He is really an outstanding outside shooter, and he makes it difficult for teams of defense because with him there and with Sam Mormon underneath, they can play that two-man game and watch out. He's had a great run here down the stretch for Coach Rissette's Blue Devils.
And another thing he does well, Tim, is that they do a great job and late in the games when they have the lead of getting the ball to Jorge because he's a lockdown shooter from the free throw line too. And I've seen him games where he's had 8 for 8, 7 for 7.
Yep.
I mean, he's played very well with his offensive game, knocking down the three and those little mid-range jumpers, but he also is an easy 2 points at the free throw line when he gets fouled. And they know that. They get the ball to him late in games, and he has done a great job of finishing off some close wins for them at the free throw line.
Right, great luxury in basketball, college or high school, to have your best follow shooter with their hands on that ball as the game winds down, because he said it's a real dilemma for teams. You follow them, and it's almost like giving the team 2 points. So
it is. It's devastating. When you get the Salem team was trying to make a run to get back into it, and they got close, got within a possession or two, but they couldn't get close enough because of the way Drury plays that deliberate style and then gets the ball in the hands of their best player at the free throw line, and that's guaranteed to get them points every possession.
And I couldn't agree with you more about your comments on Connor Hinkle. I think he is absolutely a key to this Blue Devil team. His energy is relentless. He plays much bigger than he is. He gives you 110% out there. And he is really a disruptor on the defensive end of the floor. No question
he and
about
Bond are always on the ball. They're just they're getting those loose, scrappy rebounds offensively and defensively. They play good defense, and they complement the older players too. Because Sam Mormon does a great job inside. Dante Dillard does a lot of those little things too, a lot of hustle plays to keep second shots alive, and Miles Beauchamp just has a history of knocking down big shots for them. But it's good when you have those younger players really stepping up with Hinkle and Bond and really taking on a big role as Drury makes this run in the tournament.
Right, and as you look at Drury, we talked about it. They're playing as we are actually taping this show. They're playing at home the number 11 seed Rockport squad, who comes into that game with a record of 13-8. But they're in a situation, Drury, if they win that game, they're going to go to the Elite Eight, and they're going to play a team they're very, very familiar with, albeit on the road, and that's Pioneer. This is a solid Pioneer squad, but Drury's played them twice and beaten them twice this year.
Yeah, we said it last time we were doing the Who's It Where. It's nice to play those teams again during a tournament to measure. They've had success against them during the regular season. How do you match up with them in March? And I think that if Drury can get by Rockport tonight, they're going to go in that Pioneer Valley game with some confidence, playing against a team that they've had some success against, and also that kind of plays their style. You see Pioneer beat Athol 42-32 in their last game, and that's a game that Drury wants to play. They want to play that grinded out game in the 40s. If they, I've heard Coach Rissette say, if we keep you into 40 points, we're going to have a good chance of beating you, and they certainly do, because they have 5 players in that starting 5 with Mormon, Hinkle, Beauchamp, Dillard, and Mormon, who could put the basketball in as well. So they're hard to guard. When these teams over across the mountain in different areas want to pack in those zones, that's good for the Hoosick boys and the Drury boys, because they got kids that can shoot.
Right.
And if you don't come out and guard them, they're going to make you pay for that.
Right, no question about it. You play zones against those two squads, you're really playing with fire.
Definitely.
The Hoosick Valley boys, John, we did their game last night. They played Ware, but they've had a pretty easy march as well, like the girls through Division 5. They're the number 1 seed. They opened up their first game in the tournament by defeating Keefe Tech, the number 32 seed, and they handled it quite easily. And eighth grader Trevor Moynihan led the team in scoring with 23 points, and in that game, Joey McGovern also had a big game, but there's Trevor Moynihan. We're going to talk about him just a little bit more, as he had 23 against Keith and then 15 points against Ware in a game that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But the big news in that Keith Tech game was Joey McGovern, the outstanding guard for Hoosick Valley. He scored his 1,000th point in that ball game, and we talked about this on a broadcast. We've talked about it in other broadcasts as well. This is what makes Hoosick Valley a difficult squad to defend, because you got 2,000-point scorers there on that floor in McGovern and Frank Field. They both are talented from the perimeter, and Field can take the ball strongly to the basket. So they present all kinds of matchup issues.
Yeah, it's nice when you have two senior leaders on your team, both of whom have scored 1,000 points in their career. Both who can hit just dagger of shots. I mean, McGovern hit that three at the buzzer at halftime after Ware finally got a basket to fall and cut it to 14. Now it's back up to 17. And then Field comes in after having to sit out with foul trouble in the first half and just makes big shot after big shot in their half-court offense to really just drain some clock. And again, Ware is another team that was packing in the zone, trying to take Hoosick out of the rhythm a little bit. And it worked for a little while in the first half. But once Hoosick started to have their defense generating some turnovers and leading to transition points, that really was a key factor in their pulling away last night. And one of the things we talked about before last night's game too is just what a bonus that Hoosick has with the rotation that Coach Robinson set up. He has a solid starting five, but then he brings in Aiden Wicks and Trevor Moynihan off the bench, and he's got two instant offense, instant energy players that just give them lifts. Wicks does a lot of things that just keep the ball alive and on the offensive end. He's relentless with his energy, both on offense and defense, and Moynihan's just on a run right now of scoring double digits every game off the bench. And they're on a nice roll. They've won 12 in a row. They're another team that's just blowing teams out. And they also, but when the games get tight, they have the players that are experienced, like McGovern and Field, that can make big plays. And then we even talked about Bradley, who just does everything for him, plays bigger than his size in the paint. He gets a ton of rebounds on both ends of the court. He started last night's game with a block right away in transition. And it's another team, the Hoosick boys, that contests every single possession for their opponent. And that wears you down. And you can see it last night. Ware was looking completely frustrated because they could not get anything easy in that game. And they just weren't playing their regular game because Hoosick dictated the pace with their intense defense.
Yeah, like Hoosick Valley girls, with Emma Meswar stepping up more offensively in the second half of the season. The eighth grader, Trevor Moynihan, again, and we want to show that slide there. It shows what Trevor's done in the two games in the tournament. He's had two big games, just an eighth grader, but he really plays with a lot of confidence. And like Jorge Bond, a real solid perimeter shooter, and he can really burn you from the outside if you leave him alone. And he's done it the last couple of games, and boy, he's had some big contributions for Hoosick.
Yeah, I mean, put it in perspective. I mean, we talked about the two seniors who each scored 1,000 points, and you got an eighth grader averaging 19 points a game in the first two rounds of the state tournament. So, nice luxury to have when you bring that player off the bench along with the other guys you have. So, Coach Robinson, obviously to his credit, has brought along this young player to get him playing his best basketball at the right time of the year in the tournament. And Hoosick's going to be very difficult as they move forward in this tournament. Yeah,
and we're going to be hopefully up at Hoosick Valley. They have yet to schedule on the boys' side the Elite Eight game. It will be at Hoosick Valley. We believe it will be Friday night. That would be the 8th, March 8th on Friday night at Hoosick Valley, and it's going to be against the winner of the Granby-Hopedale game. Of course, Hoosick Valley has already played Granby and beaten them this year. They have not played Hopedale. So it'll be interesting to see. And if that game is on Friday night, we'll be covering that game live on Channel 1302, and it'll also be simulcast on 107.1 WMNB FM. So you want to just stay tuned to the information from the MIA when that game is going to be scheduled. Right now, it is anticipated that game will be Friday evening at Hoosick Valley. So that will be a game to determine who gets into the Final Four, one of the Final Four spots in Division 5. Well, we got a moment, John. Let's just talk a little bit about some of the other teams that are still left, and actually what where we are at now in Berkshire County. We've got Wauconah has been knocked out of Division 4. Pittsfield got knocked out of Division 3, but Monument Mountain is rolling along, and much like the boys, Hoosick Valley boys, Hoosick Valley girls, they are having a heck of a time in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were up 35-5 last night in the first. After the first quarter in the game, I think they scored 100 points in the game. I mean, they're just rolling. They lost a tough Western Mass final against Pittsfield in the boys' club. That was, reading about the article in the Berkshire Eagle, it sounded like it was a heck of a matchup, full house in the boys' club. It's nice that they made the adjustment to play that game locally to get such a good crowd. But Monument seems like they've taken that setback and really used it for motivation in their first 2 games of the tournament, because they've scored big points, have come out firing, and they're a real threat to win that Division 4 tournament with the talent that they have and the depth that they have on their team. It's going to be interesting to see how they match up with some teams across the state going down, and now during the Elite 8.
Right. And I want to also mention, and I misstated it, in Division 3, both Taconic, the number 4 seed, and Pittsfield, the number 3 seed, are still alive, and they have games coming up that they're going to be hosting later this week against teams yet to be determined. But both those teams are still rolling along in Division 3. So good representation throughout the tournament, both Division 5, Division 4, and Division 3 by both boys and girls. So it's been a real solid tournaments for Berkshire County and Western Mass in general.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, strong when you have across 3 divisions of the state tournament. You have 5 teams still left from the Berkshire County boys bracket, and the 2 Pittsfield teams have been tough and strong all year. Taconic has been very successful recently in both the Western Mass and state tournaments, and Pittsfield has really come on with a successful season and a huge win over Monument to win their division of the Western Mass tournament they play now. So it'll be exciting to see these teams go, and hopefully get a few teams into the finals competing for state titles. For Berkshire, just showing the toughness of Berkshire County basketball. We don't have a league anymore, obviously,
right.
But the basketball is still tough in this county, and teams know when they're going to play a Berkshire team, they're going to get a strong, tough basketball team going after them for 32 minutes.
While we have a moment here, John, much been talked about. I know we've talked about it in some of our broadcasts, and we talked about it last year, about the configuration of the MIA state tournament and the fact that the rankings and how they do it in terms of taking the top 32 teams and then anybody over 500 or over after that. And there's been some questions given the fact that early on in all the divisions, there have been some real lopsided games. And the question of whether or not the tournament should be shrunk down, not necessarily the divisions. The divisions, I think, have done wonders for the state in terms of equalizing everything. But the quality of the tournament in the early rounds has been really suspect.
Yeah, having so many teams, up to 50 teams sometimes in a division, seems to water down some of the competition early. Every once in a while you get a nice upset, like the Mount Greylock boys went on the road and had a nice upset in the early rounds to advance to the round of 32, and those are few and far between, though, because of the way the matchups are playing out.
Right.
And I think one thing I've been pretty vocal about not being in support of this format when it came into play, but there's been some good developments too. Division 5 has been a good, format for especially for the Berkshire teams that have lost some population over the last few years, last 10 years, let's say. And teams like Drury and Hoosick that have always had strong traditions of basketball are now competing against teams that are more in schools that are more their own size, as opposed to like we used to play Division II and play those larger schools, which was fun because the competition was great. But now the way things are situated, they're playing against schools that they're better matched up in terms of population and size of school.
Right. Well, when High School Basketball Weekly views next week, we're probably going to have a very good idea, if not the final brackets of the Final Four for all the divisions in the MIAA state tournament. So a lot of good action coming up both at Drury and at Hoosick Valley over the next several days. You want to check your listings to see where games are going to be played and the time. For John Franzoni, I'm Tim Morey saying goodbye for High School Basketball Weekly.